Good morning, students. I hope you all are studying well. So, children, today we are going to start with the next chapter of history, which is titled as 18th century political formation. During the first half of the 18th century, the boundaries of the Mughal Empire was reshaped by the emergence of a number of independent kingdoms. By 1765, another power, the British, had successfully grabbed a large piece of territory in eastern India. In this chapter, we will read about the emergence of new political groups in the subcontinent during the first half of the 18th century. Roughly from 1707, when Aurangzeb died, till the Third Battle of Panipat in 1761. Children, can you recall? We read that the Mughal Empire reached the height of its success and started facing a variety of crises towards the closing years of the 17th century. These were caused by a number of factors. Emperor Aurangzeb had depleted the military and financial resources of his empire by fighting a long war in the Deccan. Under his successors, the efficiency of the imperial administration broke down. It became increasingly difficult for the later Mughal emperors to keep a check on their powerful mansabdars. Nobles appointed as governors or subedars often controlled the offices of revenue and military administration, which is Diwani and Fauzdari. This gave them extraordinary political, economic, and military powers over vast regions of the Mughal Empire. As the governors gathered their control over the provinces, the periodic reduction of revenue to the capital declined. Peasant and Zamindari rebellion in many parts of northern and western India added to these problems. These revolts were sometimes caused by the pressures of rising taxes. At other times, they were attempted by powerful chieftains to consolidate their own positions. These challenges were also present in past, but these groups were now able to seize the economic resources of the region to consolidate their positions. The Mughal emperors after Aurangzeb were unable to arrest the gradual shifting of political and economic authority into the hands of provincial governors, local chieftains, and other groups. In the middle of this economic and political crisis, the ruler of Iran, Nadir Shah, looted the city of Delhi in 1739 and took away immense amounts of wealth. This invasion was followed by a series of looting raids by the Afghan ruler Ahmad Shah Abdali, who invaded North India 5 times between 1748 to 1761. Already under severe pressure from all sides, the empire was further weakened by competition amongst different groups of nobles. They were divided into two major groups, the Iranis and Turanis. For a long time, the later Mughal emperors were puppets in the hands of either one or the other of these two powerful groups. The worst possible humiliation came when two Mughal emperors, Farrukhsiyar and Alamgir II, were assassinated, and two others, Ahmad Shah and Shah Alam II, were blinded by their nobles. With the decline in the authority of the Mughal emperors, the governors of large provinces, Subedars, and the great Zamindars consolidated their authority in different parts of the subcontinent. By the 18th century, the Mughal Empire gradually broke into a number of independent regional states. Broadly speaking, the states of the 18th century can be divided into three overlapping groups. First, states that were old Mughal provinces like Awadh, Bengal, and Hyderabad. Although extremely powerful and quite independent, the rulers of these states did not break their formal ties with the Mughal emperor. Second, states that had enjoyed considerable independence under the Mughals as Watan Jagirs. These included several Rajput principalities. Third, the last group included states under the control of Marathas, Sikhs, and other like the Zats. These were of differing sizes and had seized their independence from the Mughals after a long drawn armed struggle. Amongst the states that were carved out of the old Mughal provinces in the 18th century, they stand out very prominently. These were Awadh, Bengal, and Hyderabad. All three states were founded by members of the high Mughal nobility who had been governors of large provinces: Saadat Khan, Murshid Quli Khan, and Asaf Jah. All three had occupied high mansabdari positions and enjoyed the trust and confidence of the emperors. Both Asaf Jah and Murshid Quli Khan held a Zat rank of 7,000 each, while Saadat Khan's Zat was 6,000. Let us now talk about Hyderabad. Nizam ul Mulk Asaf Jah, the founder of Hyderabad state, was one of the most powerful members at the court of the Mughal emperor Farrukh Siyar. He was trusted first with the governorship of Awadh and later given charge of the Deccan. As the Mughal governor of the Deccan provinces during 1720 to 22, Asaf Jah had already gained control over its political and financial administration, taking subsequent advantage of the turmoil in the Deccan and the competition amongst the court nobility. He gathered power in his hands and became the actual ruler of that region. Asaf Jah brought skilled soldiers and administrators from northern India who welcomed the new opportunities in the south. He appointed mansabdars and granted jagirs. Although he was still a servant of the Mughal emperor, he ruled quite independently without seeking any direction from Delhi or facing any interference. The Mughal emperor merely confirmed the decisions already taken by the Nizam ul Mulk Asaf Jah. The state of Hyderabad was constantly engaged in a struggle against the Marathas to the west and with independent Telugu warrior chiefs or Naiks of the plateau. The ambitions of the Nizam ul Mulk Asaf Jah to control the rich textile producing area of the Coromandel coast in the east were checked by the British, who were becoming increasingly powerful in that region.